Yo, what's going on, YouTube, and welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy, Kevin Forte, and we are going to take a look at the October 20th game recaps. We're only going to recap the one game today. We got the Boston Bruins heading down to Philadelphia to take on the Philadelphia Flyers. It's a pretty big rivalry between these two teams on the East Coast. And this game did not disappoint. It was a pretty solid game most of the way through. The game started off the way the Flyers would have liked, scoring an early goal in this game. 8 minutes into the game, Cam Atkinson already has his second goal as a Philadelphia Flyer in his third game with his new team. A good start there for him. You're also seeing some goals later in the period. You see Carson Kuhlman get a goal, and then Joel Farabee in the final minute of the first period, a power play goal. That's his third of the season. Joel Farabee taking off right from where he left off at the end of the 2021 season. He's done really well, and that kind of continued in this game. And you look at the shots, they were pretty close in the first period. It was the Boston Bruins leading in shots 10-7 at the end of one. But at the end of the day, the Flyers had the 2-1 lead going into the second period. Scott Lawton would get a goal in the second period. He's been a guy that, Flyers fans would tell you he is a really important guy in that middle six, bottom six role. They missed him last season. It's great to see him back in the lineup. He gets his first of this season, his first in a while for the Philadelphia Flyers. And it's nice seeing some depth guys get on the board. Keith Yandle and JVR getting the assists on that goal. So it's 3-1 Flyers, up by 2 early in the second period. Alain Vigneault probably couldn't have asked for a much better start to the second period. But then Taylor Hall would score a goal for the Boston Bruins, his first as a Boston Bruin this season. An assist from Charlie McAvoy cuts that lead to 3-2 just before the halfway mark of this hockey game. And it seemed like the Bruins were starting to turn the momentum as this period went along. So what early on in the second period looked like the Flyers had full control, all of a sudden the Bruins started to rewrite that script. Brad Marchand would score his third of this season from Pasta and McAvoy, and they would tie the game with exactly a minute left in the second period. So now, what looked like a nice start to the second period, now all of a sudden, the Boston Bruins take some momentum and they tie the game up at 3, heading into the locker room. The Bruins actually got a plethora of shots. They doubled their shots from the first period. They practically did 18 shots compared to the Flyers 10. So it was a very back and forth period. So in that regard, both the goaltenders actually held out pretty well tonight. But they were definitely getting bombarded with shots, and definitely for Martin Jones in that second period. Now the third period, Cam Atkinson would get on the board, and this would be his second of the game, his third of the season. From Joel Farabee, that line has been doing extremely well for the Philadelphia Flyers, and that was just under a minute into the third period. So within a span of 2 minutes, the final minute of the second period and the first minute of the third period, we saw 2 critical goals in this game. And it seemed like the Flyers were trying to just rewrite that second period and kind of just take the momentum for the entire 20 minutes of the third period. And they kind of did that. They kind of held firm as that period went along. 11-17 into the third period, so less than 10 minutes left in the third period. Travis Konechny, a guy that really struggled last season, he gets his third of the season already in 3 games from Sean Couturier and Claude Giroux. So seeing some of those guys in the top 6 putting up some points, that was a huge goal, and it regained that 2-goal lead for the Flyers. Now the big question was, would they relinquish that lead again? That was really the question this time around. But Sean Couturier Coots would get his first of the season from Keith Yandle. Keith Yandle, that is his 5th assist already of the season in only 3 games. And that would be the empty netter in the final minute with 59 seconds left in regulation. That would double the lead for the Philadelphia Flyers, a 6-3 score. And that would be the final in this game. The 3 stars of the game, Cam Atkinson, Joel Farabee, and Derek Brassard, who was a very underrated signing. I remember when the Flyers really early in training camp decided to give Brassard a 1-year contract. I think Flyers fans were like, okay, we've seen this guy before with the Islanders, but we knew he maybe wasn't that great. He had a really down season with the Arizona Coyotes last year. But with his time with the Islanders, we knew he could be a really good third line center, and it seems like he has taken that opportunity and has completely run with it. So everybody that was concerned about losing Nolan Patrick this summer, it seems like a guy like Derek Brassard, kind of out of nowhere, has probably been a better player in that spot than a guy like Nolan Patrick. And that was huge for the Flyers, just adding some depth down the middle. That really made a difference for them. You look at the shots at the end of the night, 40 shots for the Boston Bruins tonight. A pretty good game for Martin Jones. All the naysayers, including myself this offseason, kind of proving them wrong. Carter Hart started the first 2 games of the season, and we saw a different look here with Martin Jones tonight, and he played really well. The Flyers had 25 shots on net. For the Boston Bruins, it's not always a guarantee you're going to know who's going to be in. Is it going to be Linus Ullmark or Jeremy Swayman? Jeremy Swayman got the start tonight. He was 19 for 24 tonight. Just wasn't that great. But at the end of the day, I mean, there was some really good opportunities. The power play, not great for the Bruins. Again, they only had 1 power play, so that's a pretty good disciplined game there by the Flyers, only taking 1 penalty. The Bruins were 0 for 1, but the Flyers were 2 for 2 on the power play, and that was kind of the difference in this game, was their ability to score goals on the power play, and they scored them in key moments in the game, scoring an early goal in the second period, scoring an early goal in the third period, kind of set the tempo for that period overall. And the Bruins were able to fight back in the second period. I think the Flyers learned their lesson in the third period and never really relinquished that lead after that. There was an interesting point at the end of the second period where the boards, there was a little bit of an issue in, is it still the Wells Fargo Arena? I'm pretty sure it is. There in Philadelphia, the boards wouldn't shut, so the gate was just, it wouldn't lock closed. So if a guy pushed another guy in there, he would have gone right through the boards, and the fans probably would have got a nice front row seat into the action that way, which probably wouldn't have been the best for the players. So there was some questions. The referees were actually telling the players, go to the locker room. It doesn't look like this is going to get resolved too quickly. And then they end up dropping the puck less than 2 minutes later after that. So a little bit of a weird thing there. But other than that, a really good game for the Flyers. The Flyers have had a pretty good start to the season. You look at their record here through the first 2 games, the first 3 games of the season. They are 2-0-1 on the season. They have 5 out of a possible 6 points. So even in that one loss, they did pick up a point in that game against the Vancouver Canucks. And here they are, 2-0-1, right toward the top of that Metropolitan Division. Now, there's going to be a lot of question there because we're seeing some really good teams in that Metro. Pittsburgh look really good. Washington has looked really good. The Rangers have looked pretty good. The New Jersey Devils, they're a team that's interesting because they've only played 2 games, but they've looked good. They're 2-0, right? You can't ask for much better than that. So very interesting to see how that division in particular is playing out. And Columbus is playing better than we thought. They're 2-1. So very interesting stuff with that whole situation. But other than that, they found a way to beat the Seattle Kraken the other night. That was a big one. Dave Hackstall's return to Philly. They definitely showed up in that one, a 6-1 victory. Kind of just disposing of the Seattle Kraken. And they also won a game. Where was that? They played another game. I think it was Friday. Yeah, they played the Vancouver Canucks, where they lost in a shootout, and they didn't play terrible in that game. The goaltending for Demko and Carter Hart wasn't that great. Even in the Seattle Kraken game, Carter Hart looked more like himself, but he still was kind of flopping all over the place. He just happened to be making the saves in that Kraken game. So there is still some questions about Carter Hart long-term throughout this season. But Martin Jones looked good tonight. That's going to be critical as Carter Hart kind of rehabilitates himself really mentally, because I think what we saw last season was just an utter collapse of his confidence, and that really hurt him. And he lost that rhythm that he has as that type of goaltender. He really lost that last season, so hopefully he gets that form back this season, and that would be huge. And a big victory in the Eastern Conference. The Bruins could be a team, we're talking about game 75 to 82. They have a game against the Bruins. That could be the difference in a wild card spot. That could be the difference. So I think it was important for the Flyers to win this game. Not only win this game, but win it in regulation. Because, again, right now it doesn't seem like it makes that big of a deal. But I wouldn't be surprised if come February, March, that we see these two teams fighting it out for a possible wild card spot. And that could be the difference. We also have another game on tap. They're just finishing up the first period in Vegas as Alex Pietrangelo plays his old team. He was the captain of the St. Louis Blues, raised the Stanley Cup in St. Louis with the St. Louis Blues back in 2019. He is now playing the Blues once again in Vegas. And William Karlsson got his first goal of the season. So despite all the injuries in Vegas, Max Pacioretty, Mark Stone being out of the lineup, they're finding ways to play. And the St. Louis Blues are a team we're kind of watching here early on. Are they legit? Are they for real? Now they have Pavel Buchnevich suspended. So there's a little bit of an eerie look on the Blues. But there's still a chance that with all those distractions, if they can find a way to win this game in Vegas, that would be absolutely huge. I'm looking at this game and I'm saying both of these teams, it's kind of what we saw in this Bruins-Flyers game. Who can score on the power play? I think that's going to be the difference maker. Again, it's going to be a tight game. Wouldn't be surprised if it's a 3-2, 4-2 game at the end of the day. A tight defensive model for both of these teams. And that power play goal that maybe comes in the second period ends up being the game-winning goal with an empty netter late. That's what I'm projecting for that game. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. What do you think of the Philadelphia Flyers early on this season? Do you think they're legit? Or do you think they're a fraud and maybe the stuff we saw from Carter Hart last season kind of lingers into this season and they're just finding ways to win the games right now, but as we get along, maybe it catches up with them. And what do you think of the Bruins? Because now the Bruins have lost. So now where is your thoughts on the Bruins, who now sit at 1-1 on the season? Again, it's still very early on, but let me know what you guys think. Guys, as always, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you again next time.